City Learners TV, learning made simple. Welcome back to City Learners class with me, Samuel Adegoke. This is my third teaching on the topic indices in mathematics. Indices. In my first video, I explained the meaning of indices. Indices is simply the number of times a number is multiplied by itself. Indices tells us the number of times a number is multiplied by itself. Take for instance, 3 can be multiplied by itself 3 times. And in index form, we can put it this way, that 3 is multiplied by itself 3 times. At the same time, 3 can be multiplied by itself 4 times, and we can put it in form of index, that 3 is multiplied by itself 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 times. So this is an expanded multiplication form, while this is an index form. And please don't be confused. Index is the singular of indices, while indices is the plural of index. So that is what indices is all about. So today in this class, we are going to be solving some mathematical expressions that involve indices. We'll be simplifying expressions that involve indices. And the first question I have on the board says 2 raised to the power of 3 multiplied by 2 raised to the power of 4 divided by 2 raised to the power of 2. In my previous video on this series, I have talked about the 8 laws of indices, and those 8 laws are what we are going to be applying as we solve these expressions further. So I have 2 raised to power 3 multiplied by 2 raised to power 4 divided by 2 raised to power of 2. Now, in this expression, I am going to be applying 2 laws. The law of products and the second law, which I have taught in my previous video. Okay? If you look at the expressions, you find out that they have common basis. They have common basis. Of course, I've explained that before, that if an expression is given this way in mathematics, 2 here simply means the base, while the 3 at the top right hand is called the power. So you can see that this expression has 3 bases that are equal. 2, 2, and 2 are equal. So what I'm simply going to do is that I am going to pick one of them because they are common, and I'm simply going to work with their indices. Don't forget the first and second law of indices that we treated in the previous video. If you are multiplying 2 powers together, the law 1 says that you change the multiplication into addition. So instead of me to multiply 3 by 4, I will simply write 3 plus 4. And instead of me to also divide 4 by 2, what I will simply change the division to is subtraction. That is based on law 1 and law 2. If you are multiplying 2 powers together, what you need to do is to change the multiplication into addition. And if you are dividing 2 powers, what you are expected to do is to simply change the division to subtraction. And that is what I have done here. I simply picked one of the bases. And then instead of multiplying 3, the first power, by the second power, I simply had the 2 together based on the first law, the law of product. And then instead of dividing 4 by 2, I simply change the division to subtraction. Why I picked just one of the bases. So from here, let's solve further. Then I can now write that 2 raised to power in board mass. Addition comes before subtraction. Addition comes before subtraction. So what we are going to do is we'll first add 3 to 4. If I add 3 to 4, I will simply get 7 and then minus 2, which is this minus 2. The next step will be this, same 2, which is my base, and then for the power, I'm going to subtract 2 from 7, and that will simply give me 5. And 2 raised to power 5 simply means 2 multiplied by itself 5 times. 2 raised to power 5 simply means that 2 is multiplied by itself 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And from there, I can do my multiplication and get my final answer. So 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. And 16 times 2 is simply 32, being my final answer. Question 2 says, that is B. The B question says that I have in bracket 5 raised to power 2, and outside the bracket I have power of 3 divided by 5 having the power of 4. What am I expected to do in this situation? I will first deal with the part that has the bracket. And if you look at it very well, this requires us to apply the law of power. This is power of power. You have a number with a power, then having another power outside the bracket. So we're going to be applying power of power law on this first part of the question, which means we'll multiply the power in the bracket by the power outside the bracket. So the answer equals to 5 raised to power 2 multiplied by 3 divided by 5 raised to power 4. So going forward, I have 5 raised to power 2 times 3 is 6 divided by 5 raised to power 4. Now, at this point, we're going to apply the second law. Pick one of the bases, one of the 5, which are bases, and then we are going to subtract the power instead of dividing it. Don't forget, that's the same thing we did when we were solving the first question. The answer now will be 5 raised to power. If I take 4 away from 6, I will simply have 2. And this simply means that 5 is multiplied by itself 2 times. 5 raised to power 2 simply means that 5 is multiplied by itself 2 times. And if 5 is multiplied by itself 2 times, the final answer simply is 25. So you see, this expression simply means 25. Question C says that I have 3 raised to power of 3 multiplied by 9. What are we supposed to do? We are going to express 9 as a power of 3. We are going to express 9 as a power of 3. What does that mean? We are going to look out for the number of times 3 can be multiplied to give us 9. The number of times 3 can be multiplied to give us 9. That process means that we are expressing 9 as power of 3. And in your rough book, 3 multiply in 2 places will give us 9. In other words, 3 having the power of 1, 2 is the same thing as 9. So in that case, I am going to replace 9 with 3 raised to power 2. Okay, so the answer now equals 3 raised to power 3 multiplied by 3 having the power of 2. In other words, 3 raised to power 2 is the same thing as 9. 3 raised to power 2 means 3 is multiplied by itself 2 times, and that equals 9. So all I've just done is to replace 9 with 3 raised to power 2. The process I have done now is expressing 9 as a power of 3. So the next will be to apply the law of product. The law of product, which says if you are multiplying powers which have the same base, just simply pick one of the bases and then add up the power. That is law of product. 3 and 3 are the bases and they are common. I simply pick one, and then instead of multiplying the powers, I simply add the power. Let me rewrite it properly. Equals to 3 raised to power 3 plus 2. Applying the law of product, picking one of the bases and then adding up the power instead of multiplying it. And this will simply give me 3 raised to power 3 plus 2, 5. And uh, 3 raised to power 5 would be 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 multiplied by itself 5 times. So by the time you multiply all these together, the answer you are going to get is 243. 243. How did I get that? 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 9 is 81. Then 81 multiplied by 3, that gives me 243. So 3 raised to power 3 multiplied by 9, the answer to it is 243. Question D says that we have 1 over 10 in bracket having the power of 2 outside the bracket. Looking at this kind of expression, the law to be applied on this is simply the quotient law. The quotient law simply states that if you have a fraction in a bracket having the power outside, each of the numerator and the denominator of the fraction in the bracket should have the power outside the bracket. So applying the law, the answer to this equals to 1 having the power of 2 all over 10 also having the power of 2. And that will simply give us 1 multiplied by 1, because 1 raised to power 2 means 1 multiplied by itself 2 times. 2 times. 1 multiplied by itself 2 times. And also 10 multiplied by itself 2 times. So that is 10 times 10. And by this, 1 times 1 is 1. And 10 times 10 is simply 100. This is as simple as it is. So I will be solving more questions in our next class. I want you to please get your textbook and look for related questions on indices and solve them. And please subscribe, click on the notification bell, and ensure you share this platform with other people so that they can also improve on their academic pursuit. Thank you very much. Bye for now.